was deserted, as it always was at this time of year. I liked it that way, peaceful, quiet, just me and the endless stretch of sand and sea. My father's old beach house stood a few hundred yards from the shore, a weather-beaten relic from his better days. I came here every summer, seeking solace in its isolation, but this year something felt different. As I walked along the shoreline, the sky was a mosaic of dusky purples and fading golds. The ocean was unusually calm, the waves gently lapping at the sand, as if whispering secrets only it could understand. I barely noticed the chill in the air or the increasingly darkening sky. I was lost in thought, pondering the recent loss of my father, the man who had once made this place seem magical, alive with promise. A strange disturbance caught my eye. There, just beyond the tide, was a cluster of footprints, too large for a human, yet too regular to belong to an animal. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I pushed it aside. After all, the beach was full of oddities. I followed the tracks, curious despite myself. They led to an old, decrepit lifeguard tower, one that had been abandoned for years. The tower stood like a ghost of its former self, weathered wood and rusted metal, sagging and creaking with every gust of wind. I approached cautiously, my footsteps crunching softly on the sand. The tracks ended at the base of the tower. I hesitated, then climbed the rotting steps, each one groaning under my weight. The higher I climbed, the more the creaking seemed to echo in the encroaching darkness. At the top, I was greeted by an unsettling view. The beach stretched out before me, empty, save for a single figure standing motionless at the water's edge. My heart raced. The figure was indistinct, its edges blurred, as if it was not entirely solid. It shimmered strangely in the dim light, a void against the darkening sea. I squinted, trying to make out more details, but it was like staring into a deep, dark abyss. The figure slowly turned towards me. What should have been a face was a featureless expanse of darkness, like an empty void where eyes and a mouth should be. It raised a hand in a slow, deliberate motion, and the ocean seemed to respond. The waves began to churn and froth, rising higher and higher, as if beckoning the figure closer. I felt an icy dread settle over me. The lifeguard tower's once familiar creaks now seemed menacing. My rational mind screamed for me to leave, but my legs felt frozen, unwilling to move. The figure began to drift towards the water, its form shimmering with a sickly, ethereal light. Suddenly the figure turned, and its void-like face seemed to look directly at me. A chilling gust of wind blew from the ocean, carrying with it an unnerving whisper. It was an unintelligible murmur, but the intent was clear, malicious and insidious. I took a step back, the sensation of being watched growing stronger. Panic surged through me, breaking the paralysis. I turned and scrambled down the tower, my footsteps echoing in the still night. The sand seemed to conspire against me, dragging at my feet with an unnatural force. I glanced back, and the figure was now at the water's edge, its presence distorting the very surface of the ocean. My heart pounded as I fought against the pull of the sand. I could see the waves surging higher, crashing with an unnatural fury. The figure raised its hand again, and the ocean responded with a deafening roar, the water appearing to reach out, almost as if alive. I stumbled, nearly falling, as the ground seemed to shift beneath me, pulling me inexorably towards the surf. Desperation fueled my movements. I clawed at the sand, each movement feeling more futile than the last. The waves crashed around my legs, icy and relentless. I looked up, and the figure was now much closer, its void-like face seeming to smile in anticipation. I felt as though the darkness around it was closing in on me, suffocating me. Just as I felt I would be dragged under, a sudden wave crashed violently, throwing me onto the sand. I lay there, gasping for breath, my body cold and shaking. I looked up, and the figure was now retreating back into the water, its form dissolving into the roiling surf. The ocean seemed to calm, the waves settling back into their usual rhythmic pattern. I scrambled to my feet, not daring to look back. I ran towards the beach house, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The night was silent, save for the distant sound of the ocean, now eerily calm. I slammed the door behind me, bolting it shut. I leaned against it, trying to steady my racing heart. The silence inside the house was almost as oppressive as the night outside. I sat by the window, peering out into the darkness, waiting for dawn. The figure had vanished, but the sense of dread remained, a cold reminder of the malevolent presence that had nearly claimed me. As the first light of morning crept over the horizon, I knew I would never be able to look at this place the same way again. The beach, once a sanctuary, had revealed a terrifying secret hidden beneath its tranquil surface. A secret that would haunt me long after I left this place behind.